All right. We are live. Hello. Hello, everyone. Let me go ahead and check settings really fast. Looks good. Audio looks good. Video looks good. Fantastic. As always, if there's any buffering or audio issues, just let me know. Hi. Hello. Happy weekend, you guys. Good of you to be here. Northwest Wind. Hello, sir. Always good to see you. Sweet Sloth. I love your name. Oh my God. I was just watching a documentary yesterday about sloths. Mystical. Mike. My army. Hi, guys. Hey, from Florida. Welcome. Welcome. Good to have both familiar faces and a couple new faces alike. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a moment. I like to give it a quick second to allow people to come on in, get the notification, so on and so forth, but won't be too long. We'll dive right on in. I see a number of really great questions so far, and this is going to be good. Happy Go Lucky, Sanvika, Amy. Happy weekend, you guys. Oh, one sec. Drop something. Hello, Yara. Welcome. Alrighty. Just check something else really fast. 2 seconds, guys. All right. Okay, good. We're good. I saw a little notification down here about YouTube, but we should be doing good. Let's go ahead. Oh, I'm going to close notification pop-ups. There we go. Welcome, you guys, again. Happy weekend. I hope you all are having a wonderful Sunday so far. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you may be. And I'm excited to dive into another Sunday edition of Live Q&As where we just hang out, you ask questions, and my aim, as always, is to give you as much clarity and understanding so that you can best utilize the law and start seeing the changes that you desire to see in your life. I'm just realizing, I put my watch on really quick. It's weird whenever you're used to wearing a watch and then you don't have it on, it just feels weird. Anyways, distractions aside, appreciate you guys being here. A couple quick things before we get started. First and foremost, we've had a influx of new subscribers in the last couple of weeks. So welcome to those of you who are watching. If you are new, I'm glad to have you here. And had a number of people reach out asking about the workshops and masterclasses. I do offer from time to time a discount. And right now that is the time. So I'm offering 35% off all of my masterclasses for SP, self-concept, mastering your imagination, and also my workshop bundle, which includes all 9 of my workshops covering a variety of topics. If you're interested in any of that, check the description box below. Also, one-on-one coaching. The waitlist is going to be opening up again this week. So if you are interested in working together one-on-one and you are not on that waitlist, make sure that you do so that you're notified. Also, make sure that you are checking all the folders and checking the spam folders because sometimes things fly under the radar. Want to make sure that doesn't get missed. So I believe that's it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, thank you, Sarah. And very summer. I'm so ready for summer. Francesca, hello. Going back up. Northwest Wind, always with the great questions. My person's mental health slash other conditions sometimes makes the future dreary. I want the peaceful life you have now with your husband. I'm truly now testing how far the law can go, and I'm currently taking care of my person, wanting us both happy, especially her. Oh, you are such a sweet soul. What would you do in my shoes if this were your husband? My routine focuses on infinite love slash revision slash my scene. I love that. I absolutely love that. So, and I know it can be difficult when somebody that we love and cared for deeply is hurting and maybe going through a difficult time. I love to see what you're focusing on there, going straight to the source of infinite love. Never going to not recommend that. I'm always going to recommend that. I'm always going to recommend, like, always go to the source, and that is love. That's the source of all that is. That is God. But in that circumstance, absolutely revision. Like if there are specific incidents that have happened, both in the day to day and perhaps long term past, like if there was something that had happened to your person that is affecting her, I would be revising things like that if you haven't already. And of course, just getting in the habit of revising the day at the end of the day. So I love to see that you're doing that. I'm not sure if you're utilizing revision for, the day to day or long term past or both, but 100% that. And sorry, your question is just so sweet. Like the bond that you have with your person and just how much you care for her. I love to see it. Yeah, I would be making sure if there were whatever conceptions that we have of our person is another thing to be mindful of. I know, of course, we're going to take the facts as we see them in the 3D. That's how we've been conditioned. But I would also be making sure that you are seeing your person in the very best light, as like see her glowing, see her radiant, see her happy, see her healed, things of that nature. Probably should have mentioned that one right off the bat because that's probably the most important, is the conception that we have of that person. So seeing her in love and light and wholeness. Yeah. You are such a good soul. Francesca, thank you for the super chat. Oh dear. Missy, my SP was being an idiot in 3D via text, just being off and a dickhead. But then I revised on the spot. The next time he was completely different, almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. It's unbelievable. Amazing. I mean, not the first part, obviously. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with the initial response. However, I love that you were able to revise on the spot and see. I really kid you guys not. Revision will change everything. Revision is so powerful. There is a reason that Neville Goddard talked about revision and would continue to emphasize revision constantly. He talked about it constantly, right? Because if we are continuing to take the events and circumstances and conceptions, beliefs with us and just accept it all as true, like even the past, it always winds up just confronting us again in the future. So whatever happens in the past that's not good, don't accept it. And I love that example. That's amazing. And you will see a change. It will be night and day. Thank you for the super chat, Koi Army. Excuse me. Can you give some tips on how to build faith with everyone as she pushed out? Because I still feel a lot of resistance to believe that my SP can really be mine. It's too good to be true. I hope I'm not the only one who feels that. Rest assured, you are not the only one who feels that. Unfortunately, and it sucks because I think that that's a really it's actually fairly common. You know, in my experience, what I've personally dealt with and working with other people, you're not alone in that. And one of the most terrible assumptions that many people form is the idea that it's too good to be true. Don't get me started on that. Because nothing is too good to be true. Literally nothing. There is nothing that is too good to be true. We ideally want to do away with that conception altogether. Altogether. But as far as building faith with everyone as she pushed out, sorry, Jesus Christ. Got all the drinks going today. One thing to really note is to make it fun. When we're testing the law, we want to make it fun. We want to turn this into a game. We want to sort of treat it not too seriously, which can be easier said than done sometimes, because usually the things that are important to us have a lot of gravity. It can feel like there's a lot of weight to this and a lot of pressure when it comes to the law and manifestation in general. So when we're testing, we want to do so in as lighthearted and easygoing way and just have fun with it, right? So for example, one thing that I did when I was testing the theory of everyone as she pushed out was, I would imagine a scenario just to see what would happen. Like my coworker gives me a compliment today. Just random stuff like that. There was one time, the trippiest thing that I ever saw, and what really cemented the faith for me was I set the intention that for one day, everybody that I encountered was going to say something like out loud that I had been thinking of. So I would think of something and then it would be confirmed from that person. Just random stuff. Like, for example, I had the lyrics of a song stuck in my head. And for the life of me, I can't remember the song, but I had a song stuck in my head. And one of my friends that I met after work started to hum and sing that song, right? So just different ways that you could start to see the expression of other people, like whatever it is that you are assuming about that person, note if they are showing up in that way. That's really the best and most natural way to form and build the faith, right? It's even when it comes to other people, because a lot of people do struggle with the idea of everyone as you pushed out. With other people, we're conditioned to think of free will, that, they have their own agency out there, they're separate from us. And naturally, it can feel a bit more difficult. So try just get some ideas and see what happens. Don't go looking for them, but note the things that you are assuming and the intentions that you're setting, and watch how people show up for you. Watch how they respond. Yeah. Thank you, Stoddard. Oh my God, sir, you are so kind. You're beautiful like flowers, calm like oceans, and helpful like saints. You are one of the best. You deserve all this great love. Spencer Stoddard. Thank you, sir. Oh my God. You are too kind. You are too kind. That is beautiful. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you found the content helpful and that I've been able to resonate with you. Thank you, sincerely. Many blessings to you as well. Kelly, hello. Loved our talk last week. Indeed, me too. So impactful. When we talked about fears and doubts, you mentioned you had a radical shift of understanding, an epiphany that hit like a 10,000 ton of bricks. What was that epiphany? Also, you mentioned I'm 99.99% of the way there, but you wanted to send me some ways you'd like to see me try to get me to 100%. You share here any as well, please, as it may help others here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, number one, awesome to see you again as always. That was a fantastic conversation. Um, so the the changing point, or that epiphany that I had, the realization that really tipped the scales for me, was the understanding of this is not like was imagination and reality. The distinction between imagination and reality, and how I was looking at the 3D. And I've talked about this many times on my channel, but and I know that this is things that we hear all the time. Like Neville talks all the time about, imagination being God, like that is the creative power of God. But I didn't truly grasp it. When I did, that was the switch. Realizing that when I imagine something to the point of a reaction, like when I imagined something and it invoked a response, that meant that I actually had that experience. Like it wasn't fantasy, it wasn't fake. The fact that it elicited a response, just as it would if it happened in the 3D, means that that was not that was a real thing that I had experienced in imagination. Again, I've talked about this in videos. I know it can be difficult to grasp, but I started to see instead that my imagination was like a preview into another reality. It really is like previewing another reality entirely that we can either select or reject. And that just changed the game for me. And then I no longer had the same kind of attachment that I did to the 3D. I was able to get to a point of satisfaction just as I would if I had the experience in the 3D. So there was no desiring like I had. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Maybe I need to, really try to break that down as simple as possible in a video. But yeah, that realization, like actually and truly having it click for me, changed everything. And then 99.99% of the way there, I wanted to send some ways to try to get you to 100. Well, the only thing that I was, so by that, I mean, you are able to get yourself, like through imagination, you're able to have an experience that feels real to you, right? You go into imagination sometimes and it feels just as lifelike as if you're really there. But there's that part that still questions and has a little bit of doubt. And obviously, because we're talking about things that are more significant and there's higher stakes, it's easier for us to question and doubt and be fearful. But the exercises that I wanted to send you were things to perhaps help you get more into a hypnagogic-like state and things of that sort. So that way you truly can drop the idea of waiting for the 3D to change. That's it. It's the waiting for the 3D or checking the 3D is what does this in every time. Yeah. Yeah. Where was I? Sweet Sloth. Absolutely love your name. Hi, Missy. I have been manifesting SP for 8 months. I thought I was on the right track when yesterday one of his stories on social media made me start thinking about a potential third party. I felt a huge longing and sadness, and I feel like I was the day after the breakup. Is this normal? How to get back on track? Oh, I am so sorry. Yeah, and I know the frustration of feeling like you were making progress and doing really well, and then something happened, and it sort of feels like you've been set back a bit. Rest assured, it's nothing that you cannot come back from. This is nothing that you can't get yourself to move out of. You can move out of this state. That's the good thing here. I mean, we can always move out of a state. In fact, we're always doing that anyways. Um, I mean, from what you're describing, yeah, you may have fallen out of the state of the wish fulfilled, but that's okay because you can always move back. You can always move back. And this is why I try to really emphasize to people to not panic if we find ourselves no longer in the state of the wish fulfilled. If we have a reaction to something or whatever, if we're no longer like doing good or feeling like we're doing good, if it feels like we've sort of reversed, taken several steps back, it's never the case that you cannot just move again. You can always move back. You can always move back. And the importance of that is, we don't want to get caught up in the fear of, oh God, am I in the right state or wrong state? And do I need to start from square one? No. There's no such thing as starting over from square one. That's a myth. If you are able to, go back within imagination, go back to that wish fulfilled and imagination, go back and have that experience again to get yourself back there. If you feel a lot of resistance to it, if it feels like it's difficult to do so, then perhaps there's some things that may need to be revised. There's some things that may need to be even just processed and released, right? Maybe you need to have a good cry, something of that nature. But whatever the case, getting ourselves back to the wish fulfilled, of course, is the priority here. If it feels difficult to do that, then first help take care of yourself to get you to a place of even just neutrality, even just to a place that feels neutral. Basically, if we're feeling anxious or sad or fearful or frustrated, it's going to probably feel way more difficult to go to the end. It's going to feel difficult to imagine something lovely when we're feeling terrible. So helping yourself first, alleviating that anxiety, shutting off the fight or flight response, things of that nature. And I'm going to come out with a video talking more about this because a lot of times we try to force ourselves back to the state of the wish fulfilled from a state that feels terrible, which only leads to more resistance. And yeah. Rest assured, you can move. You can and will move out of this state. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Victoria. Appreciate you. How do you release resistance seen and felt for SP, especially when getting negative feedback from loved ones? I'm trying to shift focus to my imagination and it's a struggle. It's on my mind all the time. How do I let go and let it evolve? Good question. Good question. Releasing resistance. I know that that's a big one. I know that we can, depending on the beliefs and assumptions that we have, the conception of this other person, it can naturally feel very challenging. If you haven't yet, I would be revising. I would be, if there were instances or things that happened that formed these beliefs about the person, or in this case specifically, the negative feedback from loved ones, I would implement revision so that you can start to get into a state where you can imagine loved ones saying good things about this person, where you can start to imagine you know, the loved ones congratulating you, telling you how amazing it is that the two of you are married and how good you are for each other. Now, I know from this state you may be in now, that can feel very difficult to believe, which is, again, why revision can come in such handiness. Another thing, if you are noting a lot of resistance in the day-to-day, try first to get yourself into a meditative state and then imagine, or, doing this before bed, doing the imaginal acts while in a more drowsy or groggy state. If you're noting a lot of pushback and resistance in the daytime, that was something that helped me significantly. And that's really one of the main points of SATs and why SATs is emphasized, because we're going to note much less resistance if we're in a more relaxed state first, if that makes sense. But it's, to answer the question, how do I let go? It's tricky because we can't do that by force. Like, we can't just consciously decide to let go. It's not always that simple or easy. Otherwise, we would just do it. Detachment is something that happens naturally. Letting go is a natural process. Like, when you are occupying a new state of consciousness, when your conception of self has been changed, you're going to naturally detach from all of these old stories and conceptions. And that's really the whole point of what we're doing here. So if you're not already, I would be making sure that you are utilizing revision. I've made some videos about revision. If you, are curious to learn more about it, if you don't know much about it, and if you are still noticing a lot of resistance, try first getting into a more groggy, sleepy, drowsy state, meditative-like state. Yeah. Thank you, TWSB. Thank you. Hi, Missy. As a person who has manifested 16,000 in a week, damn, why can't I seem to manifest my dream life despite manifesting some bigger things? Good question. Well, it really does depend. Were you double-minded about this 16,000? I mean, you may have had some resistance to that. I'm not sure. Or perhaps was it something that felt more possible or natural, or was it something that you didn't have a whole lot of resistance to? Just out of curiosity? Because really the reason that we struggle to manifest is double-mindedness. It boils down to double-mindedness. When we're wavering. And of course, when it comes to the bigger things in life, when it comes to the things that we truly want, we are much more likely to waver. We are much more apt to not trust. It's going to feel difficult to trust. It's going to feel difficult to have faith. It's going to feel difficult to not constantly be on guard and questioning and looking and all of that. So perhaps you didn't have as much resistance to some of the bigger things than others. Perhaps there's more gravity to some things, at least in your mind, there's more gravity to some things than others. But regardless, even if that is the case, whatever the case, you can remove resistance. You can remove any idea that the law is not biased. The law is not going to say, here, this is going to be harder for you to manifest, like objectively. It's just not. The law works the same for anything, right? Not really? Not really, but thank you. Your answer hit the nail on the head. It was more belief. Yeah, it really does come down to belief. It really does come down to faith. It really comes down to naturalness. The key word is naturalness. We manifest what feels natural, what feels true, or what feels believable. If something doesn't feel very believable, if something doesn't feel true, if we're double-minded in that way, that's, yeah, yeah. Glad I could help clarify. Thank you, Francesca. So I should be in a wish fulfilled state as much as possible. Yes. Hmm. That is the aim. That is the aim. Yeah. Ideally, we're in that wish fulfilled state dominantly. Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Missy. My SP broke up with me 2 months ago unexpectedly. We've not had any contact. Hmm. I have been going into my imagination doing sats of him proposing, but I am angry at him for what he did. Yeah. You actually brought up a really important thing. If we are harboring anger or resentment, that's something that we want to address first. That would be something that just as a recommendation, I would be addressing that first. Yeah. And it's we might be surprised at how we are really feeling about the circumstance, like until we really go into self-observation mode, until we begin to pay close attention to what we are feeling and experiencing, we may not even be aware that there is as much anger and resentment towards somebody. It's really easy for these things to slip under the radar. So I would be making sure to revise whatever may have happened that caused you to feel this anger. And then this is not to give them a pass. This is not to dismiss what you're feeling and what you experienced. Um, this is for you ultimately, because my grandma used to have a saying that she would love to remind me. Resentment is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't help us in any way. It truly doesn't. So I know right now maybe even the idea of revising could feel difficult. I know when we're really angry at somebody, we want vindication, we want an apology, we want, you know, them to acknowledge what they did and the harm that they caused, and not to dismiss, again, not to dismiss or diminish what you experienced. But again, if we are still harboring that story, if we are still holding on to this conception of them, that they are somebody who hurt me, do you see how that opens the door wide open for us to be very double-minded? Yeah. Yeah. Just something to think about. I would revise. And I would do it for you. Thank you so much, Chrissy. Oh my goodness. About coaching with you, but never received an email to schedule time with you. Oh my goodness. We were having issues with the automated email last round. I am so sorry about this. We did get it cleared up, but let me go ahead and make a note of that. I'm going to reach out to you right after this. I am so sorry. And you should have received one automatically. 1 second. No, my sincere apologies about that. Yeah, we did finally get the issue sorted, but there was a couple misfires that happened last round. But absolutely. And I'm excited. I look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much, Rosie. I appreciate you. If everything is possible, how can this be applied to age? Is it possible to biologically become 25 again, even when birth certificate says otherwise? So I do love these questions, and it's good to have these kinds of questions. Like we do want to question everything. We want to question the law. We want to question what we're learning here. Like I say all the time, don't just take my word for any of this. We want to naturally build our faith, and we want to experience it ourselves to the point where we can say, yes, what I imagine, what I assume, what I believe to be true is what ultimately becomes my experience. For things that may seem impossible, like defying all possible odds, is it possible? Yes. As in, there's already a state of consciousness where you are 25. I mean, that already exists. If we come back to the idea that creation is finished and everything already exists, that would mean that there is a state, there is a reality where you are 25. True. However, and here's the caveat, to the degree that you can feel natural about that, and that could be a possibility for you. Naturally, for things that seem impossible, we're going to have perhaps a bit more of a challenging time accepting that is true, accepting that that could be an experience. It's because time only goes one way, right? Time is linear and it's only moving forward, and we can't reverse age. I mean, these things seem like set fact. So, but again, I don't want anyone to just take my word for the law being real. I want you to build your faith. I want you to really observe and put this to the test. When you become more and more increasingly aware of the inner world, your inner imagination, the things that naturally come up for you, you're going to start seeing the relationship between the world of imagination and the 3D. Yeah. So the very first thing that we have to do is build our faith. Is making that kind of a leap when we may not have a whole lot of faith in this, or when we might be very double-minded, that's going to feel impossible to do. Yeah. Oh, did I miss a super chat? Uh-oh. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, you guys. Jeez. So sorry, you guys. Thank you, Phil. Should I wait until I'm feeling drowsy before I enter sad? Sometimes I'm not feeling sleepy during my regular bedtime. I would wait. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I would definitely wait until you're feeling drowsy. In fact, one thing that people do with SATs that can really make this more challenging, we don't wait until we're drowsy. Like a lot of times we lay down, we take a couple breaths, and then we try to launch immediately into our scene, launch into it too quickly. And when we do that, it's probably going to feel very forced. It's probably going to feel very difficult. Your mind's going to wander a lot. It's not going to feel natural. I wait until you're drowsy. Yeah. Sometimes I'm not feeling sleepy during my regular bedtime. Well, I mean, inevitably you're going to get sleepy, right? I mean, we sleep every night, so at some point you're going to get sleepy. Yeah. Wait till you're drowsy. Thank you again, Koi Army. I really ask me if I'm the only one who asks these questions all the time. Can it be that Neville itself led us to his teachings? Because when he was still alive in consciousness, it means he knew maybe how important our dream is. I was almost give up on my biggest dream, and 1 week later, I stumbled onto Neville. My SP kind of lead me to his teachings. Yep. And there is no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. And a lot of people come to find Neville Goddard and these teachings through, unfortunately, something bad happening. Something big needed to happen to move us to find answers, to seek answers, right? Which is the whole reason why, like, good and bad states exist. Because if it was only good states, if it was only all like peace, love, and harmony, we would never be moved to change. We would never be moved to evolve. And as humans, that's the entire point of us being here. Yeah. So was it an accident or coincidence that you stumbled onto these teachings? No. Not at all. Sorry guys, one sec. Chat likes to jump around a lot. Try not to lose my spot. Thank you again, Francesca. Missy, when you were manifesting your now husband back and you were in separation, how did he ever date anybody whilst you were apart, to your knowledge? Did he tell you if he did date anybody? Sorry to ask. No, don't be sorry. I don't care. No, not to my knowledge. I'm of course not going to ask because, again, coming back to the idea that creation is finished, right? If we must remember one thing only, it's that creation is finished. So there is infinite realities. There's infinite states of consciousness, and science is really beginning to catch up to this idea. Like, at one point, this sounded like total bogus, but there are infinite states of consciousness, which means that there is a reality where other people were dated. There's a reality where that did not happen. So guess where I'm going to choose to put my attention? Yeah, but to my knowledge, no. Yeah, but don't apologize about. You can ask me anything. I'm kind of an open book at this point. Andrea, thank you for the super chat. I have a hard time with inner conversations. They feel fake. I watched your video, though. Is it okay to revise in real time and replace an unwanted reaction as if you said something different in real time? Yeah, absolutely you can. Yeah. We can revise on the spot. And we should, if we can, and we remember to do so. Yeah. And this is, at first we more than likely just going to be playing around with different exercises and different ways of imagining, sort of seeing what might resonate. There's going to be things that resonate more than others. If inner conversations feel fake, we certainly don't want to force it, right? Yeah, 100% you can revise in real time. All right, just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone else. Thank you again, Choir Army. And I'm noting a couple of comments here in the chat. Number one, everybody be nice. Number two, I do have to answer super chats first. Apologies, but if somebody sends a super chat, I naturally going to have to answer them first. But I do also try to answer as many questions as I can. Yeah, I will get there. If just as a recommendation, also, I do come on here every week. And if you're here early, then there's much better chance that I will be able to get to it. Yeah, just 2 cents. Thank you, Korami. Can you give some tips to build up practice with imaginal acts, like visualizing? I tried SATs last week with a scene with my SP, but would also like to feel him. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Visualizing in SATs? So a couple of things. If you, because everybody's imagination is going to be different, right? Everybody's going to have different varying strengths and weaknesses, for lack of a better word. Like some people can have a very clear image in their mind of something. Sometimes people can't see anything, but they can hear really well. So, utilize the strongest sense in a way. Like, definitely make sure that you're playing that up. But you can also, in the day to day, like practice visualizing on things, random things, even. Like one thing that I would do is I would take an object around me, like I don't know, like I would find something around me. I would sit down and find an object, like a cup or, in this case, labradorite, and I would just try to get as much detail of it, right? How it feels, the weight of it, how it looked. I would try to capture as many details. If there was any smell to the object, whatever it might be, just capturing as much of my five senses as I could, and then I would put it down, and I would aim to replicate that in my mind to the best of my ability. Again, starting with the strongest sense. So, yeah, it may help to do it with something like a cup of coffee, something that has a strong smell, because there's actually a lot of studies that show that smell is like one of our most powerful senses. Like that one can be an incredible one. So things like that, visualizing exercises like that. You can look out the window and try to then close your eyes and just see about replicating it as much as you can. And you may have to take some baby steps. It may not come right away, but this is why I say it's a practice. Yeah. I would also practice with getting into the drowsy state. If we're talking about SAT specifically, I would practice just getting yourself like as deep and relaxed as you can, but try not falling all the way to sleep. Like bringing yourself back just before you fall to sleep. And just practice with that. Like don't even bring a scene at all into it. Just practice getting familiar with the drowsy state. So there are a couple things that we can do, and even Neville talked about this, like practicing, strengthening the imagination, because it's very much like a muscle. But yeah, I'll make a video with more exercises. I think that would actually be helpful. All right, just making sure I didn't miss anything. All right, I think that was I think that was the super chats. If I missed anyone, let me know. I think I got to all of them. All right, going back up. Also, y'all be nice. Don't make me take out some kittens. Do we need some kittens here? Will that help cheer everyone up? Hi, Missy. Should we keep visualizing until it becomes one new natural thought? Will it manifest then for sure? Yes. Yeah. So this was the whole idea of persistence. We want to continue to imagine. We want to continue with it, whatever a scene or affirmation, whatever it might be, until it becomes part of your natural thought currency. Like until it feels natural to you, like without trying. Um, or until you reach the place of the Sabbath when you'll naturally have the instinct to drop it. Once there, yeah, it has to happen. It has to happen. Thank you, Francesca. Yes to kittens. Noted. When I get in sats, I always think about me and my SP in the end. I loop a few times, but then fall asleep. Is it impressed? Also, I listen to your 8-hour manifesting SP audio. Does this impress in sleep? So when you get in sats, you always think about you and SP in the end. Loop a few times and then fall asleep. So we will know something is impressed because of how we will feel and react. Like a good way to tell is coming out of sats or even the next morning, if the case was that you fell asleep, it should feel done. It should feel like it was planted, so to speak. The feeling should be, this happened. It's done. It's in the bag. If we're noticing that we are still having a lot of, especially if we're waking up feeling very anxious and or angry or sad, yeah, the best gauge that we have is our reactions and the natural feelings that come up for us. Mm-hmm. Also, I listened to your 8-hour manifesting SP audio. Does this impress in sleep? I mean, it absolutely can. The idea of the audios is to help like keep your mind single tracked as you're going to sleep instead of wandering to random things, like just going back over the day and all the things that happened that were not ideal. The idea is to try to keep you as single track as possible. Yeah. Go girl. Bye. Yeah, everybody cool it. Everybody calm down. Calm down. Don't need to get worked up. Not worth it. So I'm trying to find my spot. How do you know you accept your manifestation goal as true and fact and it's impressed? Good question. You'll know based on how you feel. Like your feelings and reactions are that is your indicator. That's our compass. That's what we want to be paying close attention. Instead of trying to look to the 3D for confirmation, we want to turn inward. Like are we still identifying with the old story or are we identifying more and more with that new story? Yeah. What happens if I wait? Um, thought I missed a super chat. We're good. Hey, Missy, this couple of months I'm feeling let go, but I feel it's similar to giving up. Kindly explain the biggest differences for these two. Good question. I know it can feel very similar sometimes. Sometimes. Um, Giving up is technically a form of detachment. It's not ideal, but it is one form of detachment, which is why it is so common for people that when they give up on something, that's when it happens because it is effectively detachment. We're no longer ruminating on the old story. We're no longer continuing to bring into awareness that old story. Um, so yeah, the biggest difference though between the natural letting go, detachment, and giving up is the ideal way that we detach when we reach the Sabbath is it's a feeling of being done. It's a feeling of I don't need to continue to imagine for something that is mine. I don't need to continue to try to get something that is mine. That's a very different feeling than I give up. I'm washing my hands of this. I'm walking away. You know what I mean? There's a difference because if if giving up, yes, it could produce the outcome that we want, but it doesn't truly imply that there's been a change of self. Like the whole point of all of this is the change in self concept, right? If we want things to be different in the 3D going forward, the beliefs and assumptions that we hold have to change. Like we cannot continue to hold these old conceptions and expect new outcomes. We cannot put old wine into new wineskins. We cannot expect new things if we still have the same mentality, same old way of thinking. It's the definition of insanity, right? So, just giving up doesn't imply that there has been that change of self, which is why I don't recommend I don't recommend going that route ideally. Um, and instead, we want to reach the Sabbath. We want to imagine and we want to continue to persist until we reach that place of the Sabbath, because then we will naturally let go. We'll naturally detach. We'll move our attention to something else because we don't need to continue to fix on something that we know is already done. I hope that makes sense. Oh, oh, did I miss something? So, YouTube doesn't always show me notifications about super chats. It's about 50-50, so I always just try to double check and make sure. Hi, Missy. I always blame myself whenever bad things happen because I think I manifested it, so it's my fault. Is this kind of thoughts harmful? I and this is where it can be a slippery slope. We do not need to beat ourselves up. What good is going to come out of like blaming ourselves or guilting ourselves? The feeling of guilt begets more guilt, right? If something bad happens, I mean, number one, we were not conscious and deliberate. We did not intend for that to happen. So yes, it was a manifestation, but it was not something that we consciously decided, obviously. Um, and number two, we can always change it. We can always. That's the whole point of this. What is the point of beating ourselves up or guilt tripping ourselves when we can just change it? You know. So yeah, we got to get ourselves out of the habit of doing that. We're already hard enough on ourselves as is, even before knowing about the law. It was already bad enough. We don't need to continue to be hard on ourselves. We're humans. We were going to make mistakes. That's still going to happen. Even after you know about the law, it's still going to happen. The whole point of being human and having this human experience is that we're not always going to be perfect. Like, this is evolution. Yeah, yeah, don't beat yourself up. Don't. Nope, not allowed. Thank you guys for the super chats. What's up, John? What could be the most effective way of manifesting a free, ideally, trip to Japan? Thanks. Awesome. I mean, the most effective way to do it would be to see yourself in Japan. Like, go there. Like, literally go, not literally in the 3D, but in imagination, literally go there. Do you have a destination that you want to go to, or destinations? See yourself there. And what again, we don't ever need to worry about the how. If you do want to emphasize the free trip, you can always also, like, imagine making a call to somebody from back home, telling them about your trip. Like, I'm here in Japan and it was free. Isn't that amazing? Something along those lines. Like, you can also emphasize in there that it was a free trip, but go to that experience in your mind. Yeah. In whatever way feels most natural to you, whether that's visual, whether that's whatever that looks like, even an affirmation. Isn't it wonderful that I went to Japan for absolutely free? You are in Japan and you went first class. That's right. That's right. Thank you, Don. Using your self-concept course using SATs plus revision. Love it. Oh, thank you. I'll feel good for a few hours, but involuntarily sadness slash lag, SP ghosting me, comes up even when I work on releasing rather than bottling. How do I maintain the state? Good question. So, just to be abundantly clear, this is normal. This is normal. And in fact, this is, I don't want to say going to happen, but far too likely it may happen, because we are always gravitating to a state, and it's usually a dominant state. We're always gravitating back to whatever dominant state of consciousness that we occupy, right? The ego loves familiarity, normalcy, like what feels normal and natural for us, right? So we can move ourselves into a new state of consciousness like that. However, if it is not something that is familiar, if it's not something that we have dominantly occupied, it is very likely that we may wind up moving back, which is why, again, the whole idea of persistence, of continuing to go to that new state 70 times 7, or until that new state of consciousness feels like the most natural place in the world, until you no longer have to consciously and deliberately go there. Think of the ego like it's keeping a homeostasis. It's always trying to keep you near or take you back to whatever dominant state you've been occupying. So it is all too common that we may move into that state of the wish fulfilled and we'll find ourselves reverting back. And that's why I say, like, we don't need to get angry. We don't need to be scared, because we can always move back to the wish fulfilled. We can always go back there. And the more that we do that, the more familiar that we get with this new state, that's what's going to become dominant. Then our thoughts will change, our reactions will change. Everything will start to change from that new state once it is your dominant state of consciousness. This is where persistence comes in. Yes, 1000%. 70 times 7 until the eye is fixed as if nailed by a sword, or basically until we are fixed in that state. Tim Hortons is just a fancy McDonald's. Oh, that's too good. And my husband grew up in Michigan, so I'm going to have to tell him about that. Thank you, Koyami. Does Mrs. J.E. and Neville manifest their SP like I did? I could feel myself in another room in my imagination, could feel me in another bed and my SP next to me just with my eyes closed. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one very effective way to do it. And I believe that is how, I know that's how Mrs. J.E. manifested. Neville, yeah, he fell asleep every night imagining he was laying next to his wife. Yeah. Thank you, Sweet Slot. Missy, what about dreams? If we dream of the opposite manifestation, sometimes I dream about fulfillment and sometimes the opposite. Good question. And I need to make a video about dreams. It's been a while. Dreams, just like the 3D, just like our reactions, it's feedback, basically. It's feedback. It could be giving us feedback into something that we may not be very consciously aware of. It could be, shedding light on things that are hanging out beneath our conscious awareness. But it's all feedback. That said, if we have a bad dream, there's no need to panic. There's no need to get worked up, because we can revise dreams just like we revise the 3D or anything else. Yeah. Richard Cruz, thank you. I'm trying to see where your question was. One moment, guys. Richard, if you can do me a huge favor, and you may be typing out your question right now, but if you could type it out or retype it out, I do not see it. My apologies. I will be on the lookout. Mental action is everything. Yes. Let me see. Go. Oh, that's weird. That's really weird. Usually it lets me go up to the very beginning. Huh, interesting. There must be some changes going on with the YouTube chat. Sorry, guys. I've been manifesting my SP. We have started to talk. Sometimes he is super enthusiastic and sometimes a little cold. What should I do to get him to talk to me more often with more desire, etc.? Good question. Number one, make sure that you, in imagination, make sure that you are seeing him showing up as the very best version of himself. Make sure he is showing up exactly how you want to be experiencing him. Number two, if you find yourself reacting because he was acting cold or distant, pulling back, revise it. Revise it. Hot and cold behavior in somebody else is a reflection of our own hot and cold behavior internally. Literally everything is a reflection. Literally everything's a reflection. So if I'm noticing this person is sometimes hot, sometimes cold, sometimes enthusiastic, sometimes meh, then that's reflection of my own double-mindedness, myself going back and forth between, that confidence, like we feel confident and good when they show up warm, and then we get fearful and doubtful when they show up cold. So it's, yeah. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you. Shouldn't it be easier to feel in the state if you've already had a relationship with SP, as you've already experienced a relationship with them, so you already know how it feels to be in that feeling? Good question. I think that's going to be a bit subjective. I think it's going to be a little different for everybody. Maybe because some could argue that depending on the history that you have with that person, that could be more challenging versus if it's somebody who's brand new and there's not all that story and all that funky stuff, right? So yeah, it really depends. Really, however, yeah, if you can pull from experience, from 3D experience, the good aspects of the relationship and what it was like when things were really good, that'll be to your benefit. Yeah. There you are, Richard. I knew you were typing it out. What are your thoughts on robotic affirmations to purposely and consciously align with the ideal version of ourselves? I've gotten tons of movement with SATs, but want to do my best. Uh, Robotic affirmations. Oh, yeah. I know that this is, you're going to hear wildly conflicting things in this community about robotic affirmations. Some people are going to absolutely swear by them because they have worked for some people, like without question. For myself personally, that was always the least effective way to imagine. But that's just me personally. If we have a lot of resistance to an idea that we are trying to affirm, like resistance to a desire that we have, and we're trying to constantly affirm, we may notice some pushback. We may notice a lot of resistance. We may notice ourselves trying to fight with our own mind, which there's better ways to go about it. And if you already have a lot of movement with SATs, if that's something that's already been resonating and sort of working for you, yeah. I don't know. My 2 cents with affirmations, like if they resonate, if they feel relatable, if they feel natural, then they can be incredibly powerful. But both Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy and teachers in the similar vein of thought did not recommend to do vain repetition. In fact, a lot of them spoke out against it. So yeah. Sandika, thank you. Let me see. Trying to see There was a question. Here we go. Hi, Missy. I'm having difficulties with SAT, so I switched to the lullaby method, but I am skeptical about it. How will I manifest without imagining the scene? Will I still manifest? Good question. I mean, the short answer is yes. If the whole point of the lullaby method is to get you into a more general state. So it's not anything specific. Like we're not visualizing anything specific, but we are capturing either the mood or the feeling of it, the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of fulfillment, because all of those things imply that you have your desire. All of those things imply that you have what you want, right? You would not be in a state of satisfaction if you didn't have the thing or things that you desire. You would be very unsatisfied. Like desiring something that you don't have is not very satisfying, right? And I know a lot of people get tripped up because like, oh, if I'm not very specific, if I don't like get every detail of this thing to a T, is it going to work? Yes, because God put that desire in you in the first place. God gave you the desire in the first place. God knows what you want. The subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. Like we cannot even fathom with our conscious minds how powerful the subconscious mind is. It knows what we desire. It knows. It knows. So yes, short answer is absolutely. In fact, the lullaby method has been my go-to for years. Oh, thank you, Danielle. Thank you, thank you. I've been manifesting a new luscious life for myself, but have family who has wished interference on me. Aw. I find I can I find it can make me unclear when manifesting my ideal home and more funds for it. Any tips? Thank you. Absolutely. Um, family who has wished interference on me. Boo. You mean there's people around you trying to like doubt, like put those doubts in your ear? Is that what you mean? It made me feel unclear when manifesting my ideal home and more funds for it. Yeah. So from the sounds of it, like there's people around you that are kind of instilling doubts, right? Which, to be clear, everyone in our reality is always reflection of self. And specifically, if we have any fears and doubts, or if we perceive them to be somebody who is like skeptical or somebody who's going to be a naysayer, then they're going to continue to show up that way. So one thing that I would do is I would begin to imagine that, the family who is currently acting out of whack, like see them as supportive. Imagine them congratulating you for the new house and your success and your abundance. Imagine them supportive. I know it might feel challenging to believe that in this very moment, but that's the point. What we're aiming to do here is change our conception, our current conception about other people. Yeah, and I would practice with that, beginning to imagine them as more supportive, more helpful, cheering you on, that sort of thing. And if you're noticing a lot of resistance to that idea in the day to day, try first going into the drowsy state. Try first getting yourself relaxed. The key is relaxation. We want to use these imaginal acts when we are most relaxed. That's when we're going to have the best chances and most success, bar none. Thank you, Tim. My question is above. Hi, Missy. I've been using your self concept sleep meditation every night. However, I'm manifesting SP. So, does it still work if the sleep meditation is not specific for SP? Absolutely. It, it can. And this kind of goes to a question that was just asked a moment ago. I'm not sure if you were here or not, but we don't need to be afraid to go more general. In fact, sometimes it can be helpful to do so. Um, because again, if to occupy a state of satisfaction or fulfillment implies that you have your desires, it implies that you have the things that you want, right? You had a need or a want for something, and then you got that thing, and then you no longer have a need and a want. You're satisfied. You are fulfilled. So whatever helps you to occupy that state, and as you do continue to occupy that state, you're going to start to see the specific 3D uh, environment, like the specific things that you desire in the 3D. You're going to start to see those things come in because they would have to. Does that make sense? Thank you again, Koi Army. A question to Haley. Is her SP a romantic SP? She also said that there's another person with her SP. Does that mean that there's a third party? If so, it's funny because we share the same exact same circumstances. So I'm gonna let her give the updates. At the time of the interview, yes, there technically speaking, there was another, but I don't want to say too much. At the time, yes. Yes. Um, it was somebody that she had not connected with in many years. Yeah. Um, so again, at the time of that interview, like when they first started to connect, I don't remember what she said about it exactly, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but um, yeah, let's change. That's all I'm gonna say. Last thing I'll say, like, notice how in that interview she did not even go there really. Like, she alluded to it kind of, but then she brushed it off. Like, she didn't have her attention on it. She did not keep her attention on the fact that there was a third party, which is exactly what we want to get. We want to do the same. Absolutely, Danielle. They've also actively tried to stop me from moving, being successful. Ugh, yuck. I would also make sure, personally, I would revise the family members, the ones who feel like they're trying to sabotage or are sabotaging, um, that are feeling like having you feel like you are being hindered. Anyone who is trying to stop you or hold you back, I would revise. I would absolutely revise whatever the conceptions are about those people. 1000%. Hi, Missy. Could you please speak some on revision in the sense of actual events changing and not just the memories being changed? Do you still recall previous timeline or is it a new 3D experience? Good question. So I'm a little bit confused by the first part because the actual events are memories. Like the only thing that we have is a memory. If we're talking about the past, it only exists in your imagination as a memory. Quite literally. So the only thing that we really are doing here is changing the memory. Am I making sense here? Like we can't point to something and say, oh, that's the past. Because I mean, right now there is only this now moment. All that exists is this moment right now. Everything that we are perceiving as past and future is imagination. But it all exists right now. And that's the point. And why I try to explain it as we're going to have less resistance to the idea of changing a memory than changing an actual event, because that actual event, it's going to sound harder. It's going to sound more fixed. Like we can't change the actual event. We can only change the memory. It's the same thing. Meaning the past event still affects the present. Yeah. Mhm. Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah. So when we revise the memory, absolutely that's going to change the actual, like the current 3D circumstances. Yeah. Because we're going to be no longer continuing to impress that past memory over and over again. The past for us does not ever stay in the past. It reverts to the future to confront us again. So when we change our memories, absolutely it's going to change the current conditions of the 3D 100%. As far as do I still recall previous timelines? For some things. Like there are things that I know I've revised and I could still remember sort of the alternate timeline. It feels I don't have any kind of attachment to it for those things. I really it almost feels like it someone else's memory. I know it sounds weird. Um, yeah, but there are also things that I've revised that I have no idea what that alternate timeline was. I have no idea what that old memory or story was. Yeah. Thank you, Elise. Uh-oh. I just bought a super chat but couldn't post any question. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. If you want to try posting your question again now, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you want to repost that now, I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. Thank you, Koi Army. Why is it sometimes that events show me the opposite than what I assumed? Good question. Good question. Why is it that sometimes the 3D seems to appear opposite than what I assumed? Um, because we're on autopilot about 95% of the time. So there are so many things. The instances of us planting seeds unknowingly, it happens all the time because we are planting seeds all the time, good, bad, indifferent, um, all the time. And it may be that the natural course of events, you may plant a seed and not see it come to fruition until weeks or maybe even months later. And usually in that time, we forget. We forget, basically. We forget when we had planted that seed, when we left that impression. Neville spoke on that often. Like if something happened that seems to be opposite of what we have been assuming recently, well, did we have an assumption at one point that this thing was going to happen? And this is also why I stress the importance of observation and really increasing our awareness as to what we are thinking and assuming and feeling into. Because when we really start to pay attention to that inner dialogue and what we're doing in here, it's likely to shock. It's likely to shock you. Thank you, Beauty of Art. Hi, Missy. I manifested my SP, said he loved me via text. He is going through divorce. Tips for speeding it up. Oh my gosh. I mean, first, congratulations. Congratulations on your SP coming back. Excellent, excellent. Tips for speeding up. Um, so I know that this may sound counterintuitive, but the fastest way to speed something up is not give our attention to the thing unwanted. The thing that we want to go away, the thing that we want to like hurry up and leave already, we have to take our attention away from it. Because the more that we are fixed on the thing that we want to go away, it's only going to keep it around. If that makes sense. I would be in imagination, I would be continuing to go to the place where you and SP are together, you're enjoying each other's company, you're planning trips, whatever it is that you two do together that you desire to do. I would be filling my consciousness with that and not focused on the divorce or how long is this going to take, is it going to get messy? Like all the things that we might typically dwell on, don't go there to the best of your ability. Yeah. Are you still having any trouble, Elise? Oh, and Love Killer, did you have a question as well? I'm trying to see. Oh, there you are. What is the most effective way to manifest appearance changes? Would revision be useful, pretending I was born that way? Or do I just manifest it like I would manifest an SP? Good question. I mean, either way that resonates best for you. It's difficult to answer the question, what is the most effective way to manifest? Because that's going to be different for everyone. It's literally, some people are going to resonate much more to visualization. Some people are going to resonate more with affirmations. Some people are going to resonate more with inner conversations, right? Hearing the conversation from the place of the wish fulfilled. Yeah. So I would go with what you are noticing least resistance to. So path of least resistance. When in doubt, we want to go the path of least resistance. Now, this is still a practice. Like we may still need to like get used to imagining in this new way. But ideally, we want to go least resistance. Thank you, Richard. Ella in the Law last August did SATs, okay mental diet, and by Halloween I was getting movement. Haven't spoken in about a month though. Any tips? Oh, good question. This is where this is why the one of the main practices here, something that we are getting ourselves used to, is refrain from checking the 3D. Refrain from looking for confirmation out here or going off of what's happening out here. Because if they, if they start to pull back a little bit, if communication hasn't really gone on like it was, and we are noticing that and we're bringing it into awareness, whatever we're bringing into awareness, that's what's going to be outpictured, right? So like the focus and attention, where we are directing our focus and attention is so important. So I would, if it feels like it might help you to get back on track, so to speak, I would utilize SATs. I would go back to that end. I would imagine the two of you back in communication, back together, whatever it is that you want to experience, I would be going there and really like uh, turning the attention back within. And I know at first it's going to feel very challenging not to check the 3D or use the 3D as a guide, but we really, really want to get out of the habit of doing that. Mhm. Missy, when is your book out? Is it dedicated to Neville? uh, so I'm currently about halfway through it, maybe. So it's probably going to be a little bit. Um, I'm definitely going to let everyone know when that's about to come out, for sure. And absolutely, Neville's going to be mentioned. I owe so much to that man. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be sure to announce that to everyone. Absolutely. Um, oh, at least I cannot see where you posted the question. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find. Okay, there we go. Sorry. If it's been a minute since the question has been posted, I would absolutely recommend trying to repost that because yeah, these threads get long quickly. Um, I'm at the end of a lawsuit that has lasted for about 15 years. I'm suing lawyers who did some bad things to me, essentially threw me under the bus for money. They have skirted facing a trial. All this, I need to expand and believe that the sum of money which I feel is due to me is too much. Lawyers say they are no longer practicing, out of business, no money, etc. How should I handle this? Go to the end. Like, don't. I know that we are so accustomed, we are so conditioned to take the circumstances of the past and what is in front of us right now. And we are so used to like using that to determine the possibility of something, using that as our measurement. The whole point of this practice is to get ourselves reconditioned from that, like get out of that old conditioning. Because the point here is that in your imagination, in your mind, you can go experience whatever you want, literally anything. If you want that sum of money, you can have that sum of money in here. You can have that experience. And what that's going to help to do is elicit a response within you. You're going to have a reaction to the stimuli that is your imaginal act. That reaction is going to plant a seed. That is going to be how you select that state of consciousness that ultimately becomes that pictured as your 3D experience. But we have to get ourselves over this hurdle of limiting ourselves in imagination, like not really letting ourselves go there because it doesn't feel possible. It doesn't feel realistic. One thing that can really help if that feels like there's strong resistance there, if it feels like there's a lot of difficulty in going there in imagination, is try first to get yourself in a relaxed state. When we are tense, when we are stressed, which is when we usually try to imagine, which is totally backwards, but when we're stressed or anxious, that is the least effective time to try to go into an imaginal act. That's when we're going to have the most resistance. So when we are more deeply relaxed, it's going to feel more natural to us. Um, so I would be making sure that practicing going within and just allowing yourself to expand, like put yourself outside the boundaries of what feel possible or realistic, and just let yourself start to go outside those boundaries bit by bit. Like if it feels too challenging to go way outside of the box, practice slowly but surely, right? Yeah. Because whatever the circumstance, like they don't have any money, this, and that, like that ultimately does not matter. I know we hear it all the time in this community that circumstances don't matter. That means that despite the 3D circumstance, despite what was said and told, you can still go anywhere and experience anything in your imagination. And this is all the practice of doing just that. And at first, it might feel difficult. This is a whole radical new way of thinking. This is a whole radical new way of imagining. But the whole point is to practice allowing ourselves to just go outside the boundaries and outside the box of what we think is possible for us. And you'll find that it does get more natural. You'll find that it becomes more effortless. It becomes fun. What are you going to do with the money? Are you going to get a new house? Are you going to travel the world? Like, go there. Maybe there will be less resistance to that. Yeah, just my 2 cents. Thank you, Northwest Wind. Hi, Missy. I know someone who stopped thinking about their SP and detached from the situation, but the SP didn't come back. Why is that? Because I thought it's better to detach and stop thinking about SP. Good question, Tam. And thank you again for that super chat. So, this is also why I don't recommend giving up. It sounds like the person that you're describing, it sounds like they basically just gave up and walked away. And they likely still had the assumption that their person wasn't coming back, or they had the belief that their person wasn't coming back. Um, Again, it's all what we are believing and assuming that becomes out pictured, right? Um, and versus being in the Sabbath, which is detachment from that old story because we no longer resonate with that old story. In fact, it's now the knowing that this is done, this is mine, this is in the bag, I've got this, right? Those are two very different things. So does flip-flopping from good and bad states stop the manifestation, where you feel hopeful and good one day and down in the dumps the next? I mean, I don't want to say it stops or it's going to ruin the manifestation or anything like that. Um, but double-mindedness is the reason for the so-called delay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why our aim is to get to a place where we are no longer double-minded, which comes through imagination plus faith. How to take awareness off a person if I keep ruminating on what they did? Revise. Revise it. Revise whatever happened. Until that new memory, that revised memory feels most dominant, until that sort of takes up all the space in consciousness. And that feels like what really happened. Revise it. Because so long as there's rumination about something that a person did to us or a way that they hurt us, if that is still a concept that we are holding in consciousness, it's not going to be helpful. Let's just put it that way. Bye, Yara. Have a good one. Good to see you here. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anyone. I got time for maybe one or two more questions. I have ADHD and struggle to affirm and visualize consistently, especially concerning sats and meditation. I find it very difficult to focus on a single scene for long. Any advice? Good question. I have a video coming out about manifesting with ADHD and or OCD, both of which I had been diagnosed with. The biggest thing that helped me is meditation. However, when I started meditation, I really would only do like 1 or 2 minute increments at a time. Like I didn't try to get myself to sit down and meditate for an hour or 30 minutes because my mind would be way too crazy and all over the place. I started with just whatever amount, even if it was 2 minutes, that was still something, right? So start yourself with something that feels maybe more realistic or something that doesn't feel so daunting. Um, I start there and we can build on it. We can build on it. Also, we can use you know, the motivation of I no longer want to be in my current physical state or like I don't want to currently be feeling like this. Like use that desire for change as fuel. And this is why Neville would say like it starts with a burning desire for change because it is all too easy for us to remain complicit. It's all too easy for us to just stay in the same old familiar state. Even if we don't like it, even if we want to change so bad, the easy thing to do is just stay the same. Just continue to go through autopilot, go through life on autopilot. But if we are genuinely not happy, if we genuinely want to see change, use that as fuel to do even small changes. What may seem insignificant, like 2 minutes of meditation, does not sound like it's going to do anything. Well, from there, I continue to grow on it. I expanded on that. 2 minutes turned into 5 minutes, turned into 10 minutes. Now I can meditate for hours at a time. And that was once unheard of, completely unheard of. So, you know, give yourself something bite sized, give yourself something that doesn't feel too daunting, something that you can commit to, and then use that desire for change as fuel. Francesca. Missy, can I manifest SP to have a hairier chest? Absolutely. Absolutely. When it comes to physical changes, I mean, the law works for everything. Rest assured. Rest assured. Missy, is it perfectly fine to not feel concerned about no movement from SP? I did manage to manifest conversations with two people I haven't seen in a while. Good question. It's totally fine not to be concerned about that. Yeah. In fact, when we are genuinely in that Sabbath, we're not going to be concerned. We're not gonna. It's not gonna be because from that place, like if you are already in a relationship or you already know something to be true, you're not going to worry about it anymore. You're not gonna feel concerned, right? When I was in the Sabbath for the period before my SP came back, even though there was not communication in 3D, I didn't. It ultimately didn't bother me, of course, because I knew it was done. See, I would say not only is it something you don't need to be concerned about, like it's a good thing. It's a good sign if you're not noticing any anxiousness or fear there. Yeah. Um, oh, thank you, Andy. Oh no, Nina, I'm so sorry. Jeez. There we go. I am so sorry, Nina. Missy, SP and I have a challenging 3D. I feel disrespected at the moment. Do I confront him or just change internally? What would a high value woman do? Good question. Um, always the answer is change internally. Always the answer is change internally. If it's try to fight the outside or change in here, the answer is always going to be in here. Now, that doesn't mean that we subject ourselves to terrible behavior. We don't subject ourselves to anything in the 3D that is not good, or if somebody's being disrespectful, like I would remove myself from that situation physically. Um, but if there's a change that needs to take place, it has to be here. Yeah. Good question. What stresses me out a little bit is what happens after my manifestation unfolds in the 3D. Who from us starts the conversation? I can't really let go of the how. We really don't speak the same language. Yeah. And I know that this is where usually we get really stuck. This is where we get so entangled in the how. But the circumstances, how are they going to unfold? How is that going to happen? Truth, we're never going to know. Consciously, before it happens, we're never going to know. And it really is like getting ourselves to a place where we are at peace with that is crucial. Is absolutely crucial, because again, there's no way that our tiny like narrow-minded conscious human mind who only sees a fraction of what is possible, there's no way that we could possibly take in the scope of all the ways in which what we desire can come to pass. Couldn't even fathom. In fact, 99% of the time when your manifestation does come to pass, it does so in a way that you would not have consciously conceived that. There's no way. So we're not going to know. We're not going to know. And we have to be okay with that. And if you continue to go to the end, if you continue to put yourself in that state where the desire is already yours, you're not going to concern yourself with the how. You're naturally going to drop that. You will. You will. Oh my goodness. On that note, you guys, I do got to wrap up here for the day. Excellent questions. My apologies for a couple glitches with the super chats, but I'm just making sure to miss something real quick. I hope nothing was missed. If anything was missed, leave me a comment. I'll make sure to get back to you, but much love to each and every one of you guys. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. I hope you join me next week. If I didn't get to your question, I am so sorry, but I'm here every Sunday. Take care of yourself. Much love to yourself. And yeah, till next time, you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Oh, don't forget, check out the video that I got coming out here shortly. Bye, guys.